So the biggest headline of last week was perhaps the most overlooked. Americans hunkering down and buying less food. Now, these observations were from the CEO of ConAgra. We're talking about the $12 billion food conglomerate with the portfolio of brands that you know, Slim Jim, Duncan Hines, Vlasic, Bird's Eye, and so many more. A very worrisome part of this budding problem is that the public was, in fact, warned that this was going to happen. In fact, late February, there were a whole bunch of headlines of this pending or impending hunger cliff as 32 additional states were set to cut those extra food stamp benefits. Now, making this even more ominous, there was a survey among SNAP recipients the month earlier in January how they felt, and just month over month, from December to January, the 1 month jumps were really meaningful. I mean, people, what they had to do to sort of ease down on the dwindling food supply, 3% increase in those who skipped meals to 29%, 2% to 32% said they were just simply eating less, 2% increase to 23%, those folks who had to visit a food pantry. And this is really wild, up 9% to 21% people who said they had to rely on family or friends for meals. Now, this is quite in contrast to the endless stories of folks that are out there eating, right? That's all you hear about, because eating out at home really became so expensive. But also the big reason for that, let's face it, all the free money sloshing around, free money that was not necessary. Yes, there was extra money pumped into those SNAP programs, but it happened under the Trump program. In fact, that's where those expirations came from. But as they came to a close and earlier this year, no one made a fuss about it. Now, maybe the numbers sounded too small. 41% lost $95 a month, 43% lost $127 a month, 15% lost $258 a month. But I got to be honest, I still cannot understand why the Biden administration didn't fight harder for these SNAP recipients. Considering the efforts to erase $400 billion in college debt for the most fortunate people on the planet, the almost 3-year pause that they had, I mean, we saw what happened, right? They went on vacation. They had all kinds of leisure time. That eating from home in restaurants, that was them. And by the way, it contributed big time to runaway inflation. So why no sympathy for the folks with only a high school diploma? They make far less in their lifetime than college grads. And here's the thing. Sadly, even the media has overlooked this issue, in part because those extra benefits I already alluded to came under a Republican president. The only stories that I could find about this were the GOP limiting SNAP under the recent debt ceiling deal. But let's face it, that had nothing to do with the SNAP benefits I'm talking about that were allowed to expire. The bottom line is why are poor people being ignored when those who make $125,000 a year are being helped? Now, we learned that President Biden just raised $72 million, but it was mostly from wealthy folks. And listen, I don't blame him. This has been the president of the elites. And it's not just those college loans. You should see the child tax credits up to $300,000 household income, money for EVs, money for solar panels. We're talking about another group of people who don't own homes. Solar panels is a moot discussion. Maybe the poor can make their voices heard at the ballot box. But I got to tell you something right now. Something needs to be done. This is not right what's happened to the poorest people in this country, as we are still dealing with runaway food prices, more so than anything else.